If there's something that top performing sales professionals do more than anybody else, it's they're constantly assuming the close. I've talked in previous videos about this. It's one of my favorite strategies, and not for what you might think. It actually helps you flush out objections, but of course, if there are none, then you close. So assuming the close is a key strategy, whether you're new to sales or whether you've been in sales for some time. And I would highly suggest you introduce this, if you're not already, into your existing sales process. There's just a few things you need to know in order to do so, which we're going to talk about. Hi, I'm Shawn Casemore, and I help you learn how to be a top performing sales professional so that you can earn more money in less time. And who doesn't want to earn more money in less time? So if that sounds good to you, make sure you click the subscribe button. You'll be notified each and every time we release a new video. And if you have questions or comments, comment below. I'll do my best to respond. As you might imagine, I travel a lot and I get behind sometimes, but put them below. I promise you I'll respond. All right. Now let's get into it. When it comes to assuming the close, one of the key strategies you'll want to incorporate is scarcity. You see, if I'm going to assume the close and say, well, now sounds like it's the right time to move ahead. Okay. But maybe it's not. But if I say now's the right time to move ahead because that model, that feature, that quantity, that volume, that date is only available for a short time, or we have other interest in it, now I've created some scarcity, which generates urgency in your desire to close, right? So when it comes to assuming the close, try using scarcity, not repeatedly with the same person, but in different situations. So here's what that might look like. Let's say for a moment that you're selling a service. Services are typically based on dates and time. So you might say something like, well, we're happy to get started next week. However, I'm going to let you know that there's a couple other people that are discussing using the service next week. So I'm not sure we can fit you in. If you do want to go forward, though, I can block that date out right now. See? Scarcity, and I'm assuming the close. So when it comes to assuming the close, you can use scarcity, which suggests less of or less availability to your prospect, which in turn can get them to go, oh, jeepers, okay, I am interested, let me commit. See, that's the teeter-totter that you're trying to trigger here. Think about it like if you're ever on a teeter-totter, you're actually going to jump on the one side and try and launch them by letting them know that, hey, there might not be as many of these left as you think, or we have other interests. Now, that cannot be a lie. This is not about misleading people. Let's be clear on that. Right? If you've got all the capacity in the world, I'm probably not going to use scarcity as one of my methods. But oftentimes there are other people inquiring about dates, about time, about quantity, about products. You're simply bringing that to their attention in order to allow them to make a decision, because there's nothing worse. They're going to be very upset if they finally decide to move ahead and that's not available, right? So you're just letting them know of that when that's the situation. Another one of the methods I love using when it comes to assuming the close is a handshake. You're in the conversation, you've had your discovery dialogue, you've provided them a proposal or a quote, you've answered their questions, and now you're left wondering, are they ready to close? Like, are we done? Are they moving ahead? Are they not? What's going on? If you're in a face-to-face environment, and I'll tell you the trick here in a minute, but when you're in a face-to-face environment, just put your hand out and say, well, it sounds like we've answered all your questions and you're ready to move forward. Again, worst case, they say, well, hold on a second. There's a couple things I want to address, which is fine. That's the purpose of the assumption. Flush out any further objections and close the deal. Now, if you're virtual, like we are here, okay, this is something you can do. It has a little bit of humor, but it works the same way. So let's say you and I are having a conversation, got to a point where like, well, I think you're ready to close. I've answered all your questions. You've seen the price. Everything seems good. I would say this. Well, it sounds like now's the time to shake the hand, right? Kind of funny. You can choose whether you use it or not, but it has the same effect. They're going to say, whoa, I'm not doing a virtual handshake here. You haven't answered all my questions. Okay, great. What are those questions? Let's talk about them. So you can use the handshake method as a way to assume the close, right, in order to try and either flush out further objections or actually close the deal. You might even find with that technique, you'll get a few chuckles, which always helps to build a rapport. Okay, another assume the close strategy for you. I call it silence. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. Again, the scenario might be you've provided a quote or proposal, you've answered questions, and you're left wondering, are they going to move ahead or not? You want to assume the close, and you're wondering, well, what's the best way to do it? Do I do the handshake method, right? Do I suggest scarcity? Maybe there is no scarcity. Maybe you've got lots of capacity or lots of product. One of the ones you can use is silence. You simply say this. Well, it sounds like we've reached a point where you decide that you'd like to move forward. See what happens? Now, you can move your facial expressions. The goal is not to freeze frame, but silence tends to get people to go, oh crap, okay, and they start thinking and they want to respond to you. And I always tell myself in the silence, which can be seconds but feel like minutes, sometimes it feels like hours, the first person to step into the silence loses. So zip it, don't say a word, and let them speak. Again, it's a way to assume the close. You're simply offering to close and then not saying a word. When you assume the silence, I guess is what we could call that, you put yourself in a position of ensuring that they're going to flush out final objections, or they'll say to you, yeah, that sounds like a reasonable next step. Let's move ahead. And boom, you got it. All right, so I've given you a few different ways to assume the close, but one thing I want to point out here is that body language has a big impact. So that handshake is clearly body language. My facial expressions, the tone of my voice, all of that suggests what? Right? If you're listening to this right now, I'm going to tell you that on video, I've amped up my personality a little bit because you have to on video, right? To get people's attention. If you're on video with your prospect, you have to do the same. If you're in person, be cognizant or cautious of the body language you have. They give you an objection, you don't want to go, right? That's not good. That suggests them they don't know and that now they have you on the ropes. And what are you going to do next, right? You always want to remain calm, composed, smile, right? That's actually a very positive thing, can help you a lot. Even if they say something that you're not happy with. If they say, this price is ridiculous, I would say, okay, well, I can understand why you're concerned, but let me ask you a question. Why do you think it's ridiculous? Right? Remember, if you've watched my other videos and objection responses, you always want to acknowledge and then provide a question for further clarity and to give you time to think about how to respond. But body language is key. So when it comes to any of these strategies I'm giving you, make sure you use the proper body language that mimics the buyer, but shows enthusiasm and excitement within reason on your behalf, because you should be enthusiastic. You're about to try and close a deal and gain a new customer. What's better than that? This last strategy I'm going to give you for assuming the close is using questions. Now you might be wondering, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to assume the close using a question in order to do so. Here's an example. Again, scenario is we've reached a point where we've discussed price, had all of our discussions, and it's, in your mind, okay, I think we're ready to close. It seems like we've addressed everything. You simply say, well, would you like to proceed? Or does it sound like starting tomorrow is good for you? Will it work for you and your team? Or, so we reached a point where typically I would ask, are you ready to proceed? Right? You see, these are open-ended questions. Again, assuming in the tone of the question that you're ready to go, right? However, what they're going to do is, again, achieve your objective with the assumption, which is either they're going to say, well, yeah, I think that's reasonable, let's move ahead. Or they're going to say, well, I have a few more questions. Great, let's talk about those questions. I'm excited about the chance to work with you, right? So when you assume the close using questions, open-ended questions is one of the key ways, again, you can assume the close. Because it's either going to close or you're going to get some further questions, which is fine. You can deal with that. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed these strategies for assuming the close, and I hope you'll try them, because assuming the close is one of my favorite ways in order to know where you're at in the sales process and to flush out further objections. All right, now, I hope you've enjoyed these strategies, and I hope most importantly you'll try these, because assuming the close is one of the best methods I've found in order to know where are you at in the sales process compared to your prospect and to close the deal. And that's obviously what we're here to do. So try these out. If you'd like to check out more videos on different sales strategies and techniques, check out my YouTube channel. If you're not there already, there's lots there for you to consume. I look forward to talking with you soon. Take care.